So what are going to be the main themes seen in the speech of the External Affairs Minister? Joining us now in our studios, former diplomat Shiv Shankar Mukherjee, Tom Vodakkan, spokesperson of the Congress, and John Mohammad Khan Achakzai. He's a geostrategist. He's joining us live via Skype. Mr. Mukherjee, I want to ask you first, what would be the two key issues you would want to see addressed by Ms. Swaraj today?
Well, my hope is, and I'm sure this will happen, it is not simply going to be a rebuttal of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's statement at the UN. I mean, that was already dismissed by our action, and almost snubbed by our action in using a right to reply by a very junior official in the PMI. And in fact, you know, if you recall that speech, it was not only you know, a pathetic a statement of almost support for terrorism, but in fact very pedestrian. So I think what the two most important subjects she will address, one of course is the fact that Pakistan is a country that uses terrorism as state policy, that it has, and she will definitely point not only to Uri, because Uri comes at the end of a long series of vicious terrorist incidents. She will highlight that, but also, I think, even more importantly, because this is the UN platform, she will emphasize that it's no longer sufficient for the international community to simply, like a litany, condemn each terrorist attack as it happens, and then forget about it. That it's time for the international community to take action, to suit the words. That it's time for the international community to seriously consider the International Convention on Countering Terrorism, which has been pending in the UN at India's instance for 20 years. That the Security Council must not, she may not name China, but I'm sure she will emphasize that those against whom there are UN sanctions, those sanctions must be actually implemented and not be sabotaged by one or the other individual P5 member. So the two most important things are, A, of course, to brand Pakistan as a terrorist state against which poses a danger not only to India but to the region and the world, and that the international community must now go beyond these ritual statements of condemnation and act against that state that uses terrorism as state policy.
Absolutely. As our diplomat said during our right to reply, Mr. Achakzai, that Pakistan is now going to be exposed as the Ivy League of terror. The Prime Minister, the Indian Prime Minister's resolve is very is straightforward, that now Pakistan is going to be globally isolated. Is that going to be started today itself by the External Affairs Minister? Mr. Achakzai.
Well, I think India should be concerned about its own isolation, the way it has mishandled Kashmir. The world is not buying its narrative, whether it's Kashmir or Uri. The timing of Uri is very curious. As far as its narrative is concerned on Balochistan, the world has already rejected from the United States of America to UN plus members. And if you think that Pakistan is being isolated, you must have forgotten how from China to Russia to United States of America and other Far East nations, including Malaysia, have engaged Pakistan on many sectors. So if you think that the Indian diplomacy is working, I think you should review, and tell the facts to the people of India.
Okay.
Pakistan is an important country, and the narrative that Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism has no takers. And even Pakistan has proved that Pakistan has been
really, that's strange, Mr. Achakzai, because last I remember, US congressmen were not moving a bill to designate India a global sponsor of terror or a terror state.
There are two, the usual suspects who can be bought by the Indian lobby for payment. So it means that there was a bill, but you cannot prove that the Congress accepted the bill and there was any sanction.
Do you want to comment on that?
Two congressmen, to designate Pakistan as terrorist.
Yeah, I would like to comment on that. I mean,
cannot happen to.
Okay, Mr. Mukherjee.
There is a corporate culture.
It's a very strange. I mean, it's a very strange thing for our Pakistani friend to say that the US, including extremely knowledgeable commentators like Christine Fair, have pointed out that the billions they poured into Pakistan simply because they needed Pakistan's help for the situation in Afghanistan is actually ending because of Pakistan's perfidy and its support for terrorism in the death of 2,000 American soldiers. And there's a bill now introduced in Congress, no matter what he says about congressmen being available to be bought, because very soon, in some time to come, this might be just the whole of the US House of Representatives that will brand Pakistan as a terrorist state.
Absolutely.
It may or may not happen just now, but the fact is that worldwide, look, let's just forget about just talking about Pakistan as a terrorist state. The world accepts it, the world knows it, but because of geopolitics, the world may not actually start taking action against it, and now India has to move. I mean, this talk about isolating Pakistan is now passé. Pakistan stands in the eyes of the world branded as a terrorist state. I mean, there's no, there's no question about it. The time now is for Indian diplomacy and not just Indian diplomacy to convince the world at large, particularly those countries that matter, that have an influence over Pakistan, that it's time to take action. That it's time to rein them in, including, whatever methods the international community can take, and as our Prime Minister pointed out, starting with sanctions, targeted sanctions.
Absolutely, and which is why, Mr. Vadakkan, as the principal opposition party, perhaps there is not even the need for the government or for our External Affairs Minister to stoop to the level to which the Pakistan Prime Minister did, to talk about a terrorist as a leader. There's perhaps not even that need. What would you be expecting our government to say today, our External Affairs Minister to say today at the UNGA?
Well, to begin with, the speech by the Vice Chancellor of the University of Terrorism has not been well received by the world community. Whatever he may say, it is not befitting the head of any nation to talk about heroism on the basis of terrorism. A terrorist has been neutralized, and to eulogize him in a world body is a clear indication, is a litmus test indeed, that this is definitely the Vice Chancellor of terrorism. He's not the Prime Minister that leads the country. They are a terrorist exporting nation. The Prime Minister made it very clear. While we export software, they export terrorism. Mercenaries across the globe are present in the training institutes in Rawalpindi. Can you deny that? And what kind of isolation are you talking about?
Mr. Achak,
you stand isolated internationally.
Your guest is mistaken. Your terrorist is my freedom fighter. If you think of Baramdal Bukti giving asylum, who's a terrorist for us,
he may be your relative too.
He may be your relative too. You don't like it. Yes, you have. Baluchistan is none of India's business. Yet you are giving asylum to Baramdal Bukti, who is a terrorist who has killed people. Now, Mr. Wani is the victim of state terrorism being done by the security
forces. Mr. Achak, here was a man who went on Facebook, who went on social media, declaring himself to be a terrorist and asking people to pick up arms against the state.
That is your definition, but he's a Indian born. He's a
Mr. Achak, that is his own definition. He declared himself to be a Hizbul commander
and a terrorist. He is one of the statistics that the Indian forces have killed. I mean, you have a shoot-to-kill policy there. You have got a...
What do you do with terrorists?
For the last 30 years.
You don't build memorials for terrorists, do you, in your country?
Even your own...
We don't have it's unmarked grave for them. And you come, send more terrorists, we'll tell you. We'll tell you how we'll deal with them.
So talking about human rights means that a country should adhere to human rights. You are the big violator of human rights, and you are teaching us a lesson.
Oh, human rights? You talk about human rights?
Well,
have a look at Baluchistan POK. It's a shame. You talk about human rights.
That Indians are honest interlocutors because they are killing their own people in Kashmir. So you have lost any more
sense who? You
ask any human rights violations in Pakistan.
You are the advocate for human rights.
I mean,
look after your own territory, the so-called territory.
Well, Mr. Achakzai, killing a terrorist is human rights violation, and using helicopter gunships on civilians is perhaps maintaining law and order in your country. It doesn't work that way in India. I have to head into a very quick break, but that I'll get going to be on the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj when she speaks at the General Assembly at the UN. Hina Bhatt of the BJP is with us. Is her reply going to be stinging and a direct response to what Nawaz Sharif said, or is that going to be completely dismissive because that's not even worth a response, Hina Bhatt?
I believe what Bharatiya Janata Party, our Prime Minister is concerned, or whatever external ministry is going to speak there, but I completely know that we have taken enough from Pakistan regarding terrorism. We're not going to tolerate any more any kind of killings either in Kashmir or any part of our country, any part of our land. The take on Pakistan was like everything what was happening since 3 decades in Kashmir. Bharatiya Janata Party was directly and indirectly always against the terrorism, and when
But Hina
in
Bhatt,
center we're talking about
the
terrorism
Pakistan
from
Prime Minister used that
Pakistan.
platform to eulogize a slain
Yes.
terrorist. He spoke about Kashmir problem. He spoke about human rights violations in Kashmir. Are all of those issues going to be addressed by the minister today?
Yes, definitely, but we're not going to address this thing that we call a terrorist, a human right violation. Terrorist has to be treated the way they have been treating terrorists in Kashmir. We're not going to, as our other friend said, we don't make monuments or we don't, just welcome them. They are treated the way they have been treated, or like the way Burhan has been treated. So that's the right way. And
Okay, so Mr.
if they're
Achak Zai,
going to talk about the
are there
terrorist
nerves in
as a
Pakistan?
hero, it's not acceptable.
Well, our version is different. Well, what is worse is state terrorism. Yes, non-state actors are nasty, but when you face state terrorism, where you will go? I mean, India is doing this thing in Kashmir, Balochistan. We have smashed a network run by the Indian naval officer Gulbashan Yadev, and also we have several terrorist incidents, and we believe that India is behind that. So there is a non-conventional war going on by a state against Pakistan to keep Pakistan boiling.
But that was not the issue that you brought up. What you found more important to bring up was a terrorist who had been killed, and talk about him like a young leader.
Yeah, Gulbashan Yadev was an Indian. He is a naval officer. He's your countryman. He's still on our custody. The world knows that. India knows that. And we'll talk about, was he on a picnic? I mean, what the hell he was doing it in Balochistan? Now, this is state terrorism. Okay, this is worse than non-state terrorism. Non-state terrorism is horrible. We condemn it.
What about the Saeed Hafiz who openly talks about terrorism in Kashmir from Pakistan?
Well, Kashmir is something that we are part of it. We think that Pakistan is a stakeholder in Kashmir. There's a dispute issue at Shimla, UN resolution. So what is going on is a matter of concern for Pakistan.
Kashmiris don't accept that.
You're really wasting time.
That's none of your business, because the UN resolution is there. Your Prime Minister Rajiv
Okay, we can
So
keep
just
indulging
BJP
in
does
this
not
back and
accept it,
forth,
does
but
not mean-
I
does
think
not
as a
mean
seasoned diplomat in our
the
studio has
international-
summed up, what is going to
Well, the
happen at the
international
UNGA
treaties
is
cannot change just because
is not a war
BJP
of
government
words
does
or
not
a TV panel debate. It's going to be a measured statement that India is going to give out. Let's see what exactly are the points that our External Affairs Minister made and how the world reacts. For now, completely out of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Hina Bhatt for joining us.